and welcome to Pluribus Fireside Chats. Not as good as FDR's, but hey, it's something. Yes. As you saw from the latest episode of the show, 2022 has come to a close. By the way, how much did you like the Doug Walker cameo? You guys better have liked it, because it cost me literally $70 to make. I'll probably go a bit more in depth about the whatevers in a bit, when we get into sort of I guess the main topic, even though it's at this point it's not really a main topic, it's basically just a wrap-up of the year thing. It feels really weird that I'm doing the wrap-up of the year, because I literally, I understand how this concept works, but this year felt like it literally flew by, and especially with things that you may or may not know, considering I mentioned it in not one, but two of the most recent videos I made. You probably should know about it by now. And also, literally, right before, not that, 2 days before the latest video, the screw-up video, came out, I suffered another death in the family. Don't worry, this one was, I can't really word it in a good way. It didn't impact me as much because of, tons of reasons that I probably will not get into in public. The only one I can say is that me and this recent one were not really that close. Meanwhile, the first death was a lot more close, obviously. But I guess we're going to get off that topic and get into the rest of the stuff that I'm going to do in the episode. For the last time this year, let's get right into the news. First, I think it's justified that I talk a little bit about the situation in Peru, because a lot of developments have been happening. For those who don't remember, last time we left off that story, President Pedro Castillo foolishly decided to try and initiate a self-coup on himself. And then due to this, basically the entire Peruvian Congress turned on him, with only only 6 members of Congress stood against the grain and even just stated that they would, I think only 3 or 4, maybe 5 voted to, I don't remember the exact numbers. You can look back on one of the previous episodes and it'll explain the whole thing. But a certain number of the people in the Congress, but in the single digits, voted to keep Castillo in office. That shows you how bad the situation was for him. Then he was arrested, and now there are a lot of people who are pro-Pedro Castillo or anti-Dina Boluarte who are basically trying to do protests, and a lot of things have been happening. Boluarte has been sending police to go quell the protesters, and of course, this has led to another step in the massive bad things going on with the Peruvian government. Because if you remember, Peru has had a long-standing political crisis at least since 2017, which has led to a couple of resignations and was basically the thing that propelled Pedro Castillo into the presidency in the first place. But now it's the thing that pushed him out, and now there's this huge thing. And Boluarte, even though the whole point of Boluarte was I'm supposed to get things back on track, she was supposed to be conciliatory, she's either just the lefty who's trying to be conciliatory to the right-wingers, much like Castillo did, or she's just being a plain old right-winger because she's been trying to be I'm going to try and smooth things over. But this has just led to, more problems. So much so that it seems like there have been calls now for Boluarte to resign, and it's okay, this is definitely not going good. Many other people Boluarte pushed in to try and, be the new Congress and be the new parliament, she, have basically resigned because of how Boluarte has been responding to the protests. And the people were supposed to be this big coalition government. And sadly, one thing that happened, which led to those two people in the parliament to resign, cabinet, was the Ayacucho massacre. The Peruvian army basically went to a place and, massacred a bunch of indigenous people, which is very tragic, 100%. And the protests have gotten the attention of a lot of people. We've had a ton of people who are, here are the people who support, the people parties, whatever, that support the protests. Peru Libre, obviously, Together for Peru, which was the coalition that was supposed to, it was basically the coalition that Pedro Castillo said, I'm not like them. the Democratic Peru, Bicentennial Peru, Red Fatherland, the Ethno-Catharsis, and the Union for Peru. Lead figures are Betsy Chavez, Guido Pelido, a lot of people that were sort of like in this like left wing, like not even necessarily like left wing, like to a degree some of them are left wing, but like the ones that I've listed off are mostly like left wing groups. The only one that technically might not count as left wing is like the Ethno-Catharsists. We'll get to them in a second. As you can see by this being a bit more rambling than usual is because it's a bit more hectic than usual. So let's go back to like very much basics. What is the goals of the protesters? Well, one of the big goals of the protesters that I vehemently disagree with is letting Pedro Castillo out of jail. But it's not even listed when you go to like web sources to talk about it. It's usually just an on the ground like demand, though I don't necessarily agree that that should be done. Like, I 100% believe Pedro Castillo should be jailed for what he did, because what he did was try to initiate a self-coup on himself. He 100% should be in there, in that prison cell. But that also doesn't mean that the government has the right to like break in the brains of protesters who don't agree with that sentiment. People should be free to protest and want Castillo to be freed, and that's up to the court system and everything else. But what is like the goals that are a bit more nuanced? First, resignation of Dina Boluart. I don't necessarily think if I agree with that. Drafting a new constitution. That's a typical one that leftist protests usually do. That might be interesting to see. Dissolution of Congress. I assume they mean, the dissolution of this Congress. Establishment of a constituent assembly to write said new constitution. But the biggest one, of course, is the idea of a new general election. Now, I don't necessarily disagree with the goals of those things, but of course you might be saying, but isn't that what Castillo said? Well, yes, but the difference is Castillo was using a method that had previously been used by Fujimori and inevitably led to worse causes. So we don't know, like, if that was the order in which things are done, then that's definitely bad. I think what should be done is sort of similar to what they did in Chile, where there was an election to elect a new constituent assembly to write a new constitution, which would then be voted on in a referendum. And one of the things I said very early on with like the whole debacle between like Castillo and whatever, there really should have been new elections at that point. At that point, the government was so incapable, there really should have been new elections. And it looks like the protesters might have gotten at least one of their goals done, because the Peruvian Congress has proposed the idea of moving the election up to 2024. And from what it looks like, it might have passed, but then again, it also could have potentially like not passed. But it's definitely being proposed that they hold new elections. And I guess with Castillo out of the way, I guess the right wing is a little bit more comfortable with the idea, even though I really don't see what was the point. Like, were they afraid that Castillo would run again? Which maybe he would have, I don't know. But with talks of new elections, I should mention, that the next election might actually be somewhat interesting in one regard, because of one of the candidates that is supposedly winning. Like, they've done a couple of polls, with the idea of like the next election. But again, this was mostly done with the idea of, the next presidential election, like if it was in 2026, so maybe things might change. But one of the leading people, if you look at the polls that have been done so far, you would think there might not be that much good news for the left. But there is one thing that is very interesting, and it's kind of sad because it will probably put us in the exact same position as we are right now, because the quote-unquote leading leftist candidate, I use the quotes very, very much, is a man by the name of Antaro Humala. For those who don't know, Humala is actually part of a very interesting political family in Peru, which a person that recently joined my Discord server actually suggested that I talk about, because it just seems like very weird. Okay, so first of all, his brother, Ulysses Humala, ran for the presidency in 2006, I believe. Meanwhile, his brother, Ollanta Humala, actually was the president of Peru, and his dad, Isaac Humala, founded the ideology that all of them basically run under. It's an idea called ethnocatharsism. Now, ethnocatharsism it's an ethno-nationalist indigenous ideology that's super ultra-nationalist, one of the things that they say they are is they're anti-capitalist, anti-communist, anti-fascist, anti-Fujimori. They are basically a third positionist party and movement. I really should have used it I really should have looked more into it when I did my third positionist video, because honestly, they would have been an interesting face to see. He was apparently the guy who led the 2017 protests, which led to the Peruvian political crisis to begin with. So he is a very noticeable figure in this Peruvian movement. But unfortunately, his ideology is very much like his brother and much like Castillo, in the sense that they muddy themselves to be like, oh, we're supposed to be on the left, but we're also anti-communist. So it's like this really muddy thing, which is just basically trash at this point. It's like, normally with these kinds of protests, the things actually get better, but unfortunately it looks like things might go back to just square one. So yeah, that was a pretty long explanation for that. Let's move on to the next story. Now, this one is interesting. It's not it is sort of political, but it's also generally interesting, because this is one that might actually be very much affecting how the future of cinema might be. Not Kirsten cinema, like cinema as in film. So here's the full context to understand. So what happened is, two people who were fans of an actress by the name of Ana de Armas filed a lawsuit in January alleging that they rented a movie called Yesterday. The film is supposed to be what if the Beatles didn't exist, and that was the movie. Now here's what happened. These two fans, they saw a trailer for the movie which had Ana de Armas in it. They rented the movie and they're like, oh, let's watch it. And then when they watched it, they discovered that Ana de Armas was cut out of the movie, and they were really mad about this. And then they went to sue, they went to sue Universal for this case. Now Universal said, it doesn't matter. They just basically chalked up some random BS argument about oh, you see, trailers are actually technically cinematic stories. It's supposed to be a 3-minute story conveying the theme of the movie, and you see, due to that is why it's okay for us to lie to you in trailers. That's basically been the argument that a lot of people use to try and defend film trailers that are incredibly misleading, that it's not actually supposed to sell you on the movie anymore. It's instead just supposed to convey the idea of the movie, except that's 100% not what trailers are supposed to do. Trailers are literally supposed to sell you the movie. That is the point of a trailer. After a movie was over, these little things would play at the end of a movie, and then it'd be like, this is Jerry. Jerry is a normal guy until he met the love of his dreams. However, she's a giraffe. And sometimes they literally just explain the whole plot of the movie to you. The twist and everything. But so of course, eventually people started cutting out some of the twists, and then of course trailers were moved at the beginning of the movie rather than at the end. And then of course they changed it a little bit so that now instead of actually explaining to you what happens, it's sort of scenes that you can convey a general idea of it. But of course, now with this sort of muddying of it, now trailers are treated as their own unique thing. And now they're basically and that's one of the weird things about trailers. We literally get trailers for trailers now. There are a lot of people that are more excited for trailers than they are of the actual film, because trailers have been hyped up now to the point where movie studios can make arguments like this. Yeah, we could just blatantly lie to you because, trailers are actually a work of art. So technically you're infringing on our First Amendment rights. But luckily, this judge isn't stupid and said, no, according to California's false advertising law and the state's unfair competition law, he stated, quote, Universal is correct that trailers involve some creativity and editorial discretion, but this creativity does not outweigh the commercial nature of trailers. At its core, a trailer is an advertisement designed to sell a movie by providing consumers with a preview of the movie. And Universal tried to make like an argument like, no, you can't do this, because if you do this, if you try to like judge against us, then what's going to happen is a bunch of people are just going to start randomly suing movies because they just didn't like it. And the, judge, of course, also, again, not being stupid, cited that, no, it has to be like you intentionally misled them. So this court case might actually lead to film trailers becoming like 10 times more honest now. And honestly, I am 100% happy about that. Literally, I don't like the idea of like a trailer can just flat out lie to you. A trailer is literally made to sell you a movie and get you excited for it. That's why movie trailers are trying to like one-up each other now. Like, it's weird. Like, there was one movie trailer I was like watching. I think I was at the Rise of Skywalker or like The Last Jedi or like, I don't know. I don't remember what I was. What? It was a Disney movie, I know that, because it was like they were promoting that Harrison Ford movie with like the dog, and then the trailer was like literally formatted like an action movie, and it's like, this is clearly not an action movie. Why are you advertising it this way? But anyways, let's just move on to the next topic. Okay, so this is an interesting topic to talk about because it shows the utter incompetence of some people, both the person in the story and another thing that you'll see in a bit. Okay, so if you don't remember, one of the people that was elected to this new Congress is a man by the name of George Santos. George Santos ran this campaign that was somewhat inspiring. He campaigned on like his parents or grandparents were Holocaust survivors, and he campaigned about how he's one of the few openly gay Republicans. He campaigned on the fact that many of his employees sadly like lost their lives during the tragic Pulse nightclub shooting. He campaigned about like being this hardcore New Yorker and whatever. Like, he campaigned like on a lot of things. He campaigned about like, oh, he was denied like rent or something. It was a really inspiring story, honestly. If you actually took a look at the story, you'd understand that it's like actually kind of inspiring. Turns out he literally made all of it up. Literally every single thing I told you, he just flat out lied. Apparently the address that he claimed that he lived at, he moved away from a while ago, but he was still voting in that area. His parents, his grandparents were not Ukrainian Jews that escaped the Holocaust. It turns out he like just flat out lied, working for Citigroup and Goldman Sachs. And it turns out that 1 year before he announced his congressional bid, he was divorcing a woman, so he's clearly not gay, or at the very least, very coincidentally, I guess, prayed the gay away or whatever. Like, a lot of jokes have been made at Santos' expense. One of the big ones that I remember reading is like a person saying, wow, a Republican congressman being outed as straight? That's something new. But one thing has always been clear. Like, even though everybody's making fun of Santos, one of the biggest people that has been made fun of is the New York Democratic Party. Because the New York Democratic Party, everybody was like, you seriously, none of you looked him up? Like, all these claims were debunked, like, relatively recently. It's like, nobody picked it up at this point? No news agencies? No, like, whatevers? None of you looked this up? Like, everybody has been going around being like, are you serious? None of you looked him up beforehand? Opposition research literally found none of this beforehand, and of course, New York Democratic Party has tried to like brush themselves clean of the affair. Like, oh, you see, you know, we didn't necessarily know who the Democratic primary winner is, and we need to focus on that. We need to focus on his statements. Most of the people who do opposition research are like younger members of our staff, so it's fair to understand that. It's like, no, but here's one of the biggest ones that clearly 100% should have been, like, this is a fact of the matter that really should be the kick in the nail for the Democrats. Like, this, like, Democrats 100% cannot blame anybody but themselves on this because of one fact that I remembered. This is not Santos's first run. Santos ran in 2020 as well, saying literally the exact same thing he said back then, now. You had literally 2 elections to fact check any of Santos's claims. 2 elections, and none of you picked this up. That's why everybody's demanding the New York Democratic Party get new leadership, because it's like they are utterly incompetent. The fact of the matter is, anybody who is in charge of the New York Democratic Party right now needs to resign immediately. They are utterly incompetent at doing their jobs. Speaking of people incompetent about doing their jobs, let's move on to the next story. First, let's try to wear this story in a positive element. You see, there was a bill that was called the Respect for Child Survivors Act. It's a bill that was supposed to help with child sex abuse victims, because sadly, the FBI has historically mishandled them. And the bill would create specific teams within the FBI to support child victims and investigate child sexual abuse, trafficking, and child abuse content. And, thankfully, it passed with bipartisan support. However, 28 Republicans hated this. They do not like this at all and voted down on this measure. 28 Republicans made it known that they love child rape. Let's list them all. Andy Biggs loves child rape. Dan Bishop loves child rape. Lauren Boebert loves child rape. Mo Brooks loves child rape. Michael Cloud loves child rape. Andrew Clyde loves child rape. James Comer loves child rape. Rick Crawford loves child rape. Byron Donalds loves child rape. Virginia Fox loves child rape. Louis Gohmert loves child rape. Bob Good loves child rape. Paul Gosar loves child rape. Marjorie Taylor Greene loves child rape. Jody Heiss loves child rape. Clay Higgins loves child rape. Ronnie Jackson loves child rape. Thomas Massey loves child rape. Tom McClintock loves child rape. Barry Moore loves child rape. Troy Nels loves child rape. Ralph Norman loves child rape. Scott Perry loves child rape. Matt Rosendale loves child rape. Chip Roy loves child rape. John Rutherford loves child rape. Austin Scott loves child rape, and Jeff Van Drew loves child rape. I didn't expect that the 117th Congress would close out with a pro-child rape caucus, and what's even more shocking is that Jim Jordan and Matt Gaetz are not in it. Now, in my effort to drive home the point of the fact that all those Republicans love child rape, I feel really disgusted now. I can't wait for Shoe-on-Head to never mention this again, and I can't wait to get to the uploading part of this section so I can figure out what to name this section. With that out of the way, let's move on to the next story. Okay, so a 1.7 trillion omnibus funding bill is being sent to Biden. This is basically supposed to hold out funding for the winter at least, to make sure that there isn't a government shutdown during the middle of winter, because they're entering the session where they're about to leave. The 117th Congress is leaving and the 118th is entering. So, I don't know if this is one of the last bills that they're going to vote on. Maybe it is. But, it is definitely, it is one of the last bills, but it's not, I don't think it's the last bill. And what's interesting is that this bill, it almost seemed like it would be a similar, it almost seemed like it was going to be, somewhat rubber stamped. What happened is, it passed 225 to 201. And, of course, how it usually is we'll see if there's any, interesting flips. 9 Republicans voted to pass the thing, and it just so happens most of them are going to be leaving after this Congress, so they really have no reason to hate this bill. But there were 2 interesting things. Rashida Tlaib voted, to abstain. She voted present, and AOC voted against the bill. Now, she stated that the reason why she voted against the bill is because she is, the plan, the idea is, because the bill would include funding to the DHS and ICE and AOC. She made it one of her early goals when she first got into Congress that she would oppose any funding to ICE. She wanted to defund ICE or abolish ICE is what she ran on. And now she's basically at the very least, she's not going to add more funding to ICE. I say good on her. There's not much else to say, so let's move on to the main topic of this video, where again I have to mention 2022 is coming to a close. Year 4 of this channel is almost over, and as such, we'll have to take a look back on memory lane, relive some of the past memories that we've made over the course of the year. Some good, some bad, some mediocre, but each of them relevant. At the beginning of this year, I learned that I could make my videos in crisp 1080p, and they look really good because of it. And I see one thing that I should have mentioned in the beginning of the episode, but I got sidetracked because of reasons, is that you may notice that the waveform, it looks a little different than it did last episode, even though I just stated in the E Pluribus scripts that I think I fixed it and it would be in the same position. Well, in between that, that video being made, or at the very least being finished, edited, and now, is that the software that I got updated. It got a big new update, and a lot of things changed. Things might be running a little bit more smoothly, at least for a decent bit. Things have become a little bit easier, at least in regards to some things, like snapping at the very least, and whatever. And of course, one of the things is now the waveform has changed a little bit, so now I had to move it into a new position. But I made sure to get all that done before, I even make this episode, so that you can at the very least see how it goes. And one of the reasons I'm mentioning it now is because I learned that I could technically make my videos in 4K now. Now, I'm only saying this just because I wanted to say it. I am not going to be making my videos in 4K. Legitimately, my videos do not deserve to be in 4K. They do not deserve to be in 4K. 1080p is enough. That is all the pixels I need. The image is clear, the sound is clear, that's all I need. I don't need any more than this. My midterm predictions were actually pretty on the nose. Granted, some were more accurate than others. My Senate race predictions were a little off. I predicted that the Democrats would have at the very least one more seat, but sadly Mandela Barnes didn't manage to pull it off. And the governor's races, it's flip one seat red and one seat blue, and that was basically my only fault. But the House races, I managed to get it 100% on the mark. Not the specific districts, but the breakdown. I literally predicted that it was just going to be 222, 213 again. I greenlit 2 new sub-series on this channel. One, the EPU files, which for those who don't remember, was originally just the Halloween thing, but I gave it a formal name and formal intro. But I also made My Problem With, a new sub-series for my podcast. Let's see how long it takes before I have to start really digging the bottom of the barrel before I find political organizations that I think are good that I can make fun of. I made my magnum opus of the year, the Communist Party USA video. It's probably going to be my magnum opus for a while, because I don't know if I'll be able to think of anything to be longer than it, because it was literally the political party that is in this sphere that I could do that has the longest history, aside from the Socialist Labor Party. If the SLP video wasn't longer than it, then I really don't know what other party could be longer than it. Well, I can think of 2, but again, I'm probably not going to do those. Foreign election-wise, we did pretty good too. We got 2 pink tide leaders with Gustavo Petro and Lula da Silva. As of the recording of this video, I have 819 subscribers. Patreon-wise, I'm still a bit stagnant. I don't know how to fix that. I've asked for people to suggest how to fix that, but I don't really know if there is a way to. Hopefully some of you will learn to share the wealth eventually. Those were the goods. Let's take a look a little bit at some of the negatives. At least channel-wise, not really personal life-wise. Well, that's not really the focus of this channel. Unfortunately, not everybody who was running managed to actually make it to win. Andy Levin, Nita Alam, Marie Newman. We got some big L's. I think there was one Pink Tide Nation that we got an L in. I don't remember. No, I don't think so. I think it was I think I'm still thinking of Ecuador. As I mentioned, Mandela Barnes didn't manage to pull through, even though Mandela Barnes, being a member of the Senate, would probably be really good. Unfortunately, one of my biggest collaborative partners, Niall Elcom, basically decided to leave YouTube after a long time being part of the Dum Dum Left, and then me rehabilitating him. It was time to leave. I can't deny that he had some role in the playings of this channel. I definitely owe some of the fan base to him. There was a point where he did originally have a larger fan base than I did, but then I surpassed him. I also surpassed Sunflower Socialist. And of the collaborative partners that I had, they're really the only 2 that had a larger fan base than me. Mr. Beast, technically, but we haven't really collaborated on much. We attempted to collab at one point, but it just didn't happen. And then he stole some of my ideas. No, he didn't really steal it, but he stole it, wink wink. I rip off his channel, he rips off some of my video ideas. It's a symbiotic relationship. in case any of you are people who don't go outside, no, this isn't like an actual thing. I'm not accusing him of plagiarizing me or anything. And I didn't plagiarize him either. I was definitely inspired by him and a ton of other people, but I hopefully was able to make a more interesting style than all of them. Like, I mean, there's choice differences between all of our styles, but we all know that by this point. And if you don't know that, who are you? And why are you here if you don't know any of this? I unintentionally made a Reform Party reference. But yeah, first let's go a little bit more in depth about this channel this year, because right before I decided to make this video, I actually decided to do something interesting, where I decided to do a viewer poll and ask some of my audience, some basic questions about how they felt about this year, just to get like some gauging of the audience, because I do like doing that, engaging the audience. Unfortunately, none of you choose to engage at all. I have 800 subscribers and only 70 of you responded, but whatever, it is what it is. So again, I basically asked a couple of questions, gauging, like, what did people like that I made this year? What did people not like that I made this year? I should have asked a very formal question about, like, what did you hate about this year? Well, pertaining to this channel, like, what did you hate about my content this year or whatever? What was your least favorite video or something? I should have done something like that, but oh well. I'll do that at one point in the future, because again, I want to keep doing viewer polls to engage audience and whatever. So we'll go over like some of the things and some of the results, just so we have something to do for a little bit for this episode. Okay, so first I asked, of the series/sub-series I made this year, what is your favorite? And I include all of the series/sub-series that I did for this year that, and I just had people, it was one of those things, because I did something, it was sort of like approval voting. I don't know necessarily what the thing is, but it's like, you can check multiple ones, but I made sure people didn't check them all, because I didn't want that. I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have, but like, I just made sure, just in case. And the choices were party history videos, politics and media, fireside chats, thoughts on, my problem with, lists, reaction videos, and who is, because those are the general shows that I made, like videos, like multiple videos of this year. And the one that surprisingly won out is politics and media. I guess people do generally like that idea of like going over this thing. It's probably just because it's the newest ish idea, and probably because it actually had like more videos to do this year, which, I mean, I think you might get good news, because I think politics and media is still going to be relevant next year. I mean, it's still going to be relevant in the sense that it'll still be there, but it's like, I think it's still the majority of videos technically are politics and media. The one that didn't do so hot was reaction videos, which got zero votes, which, don't fret, I don't think I'm doing that many more reaction videos. The only video that I might do a reaction video of next is the episode 8, was it episode 8? You know the one I'm talking about, the one that has like the terrible amount of views. I just want to see it just for fun. Although, the only other exception is if somebody makes a reaction video to my content, because I'm 100% going to react to their reaction to me. Like, that's 100%. That's my dream. If anybody makes a reaction video of me, like, if any of you find a reaction video of somebody reacting to my content, send it to me 100%. I am 100% going to react to it and post it on this channel. And then I want them to make a reaction video of me reacting to them, reacting to me. And then I'm going to make a reaction video to that. That is my dream. I 100% will do that. 100%. And you think I'm being facetious. No. I am literally dead serious. Now, the next one is a bit surprising, actually. You see, I decided to do a pie chart, because there are really only two options that I could put for this one. Which of these party history related videos are the best? And I include the Communist Party video and the Party Switch video. And surprisingly, the Party Switch video is overwhelmingly winning. I legitimately thought the Communist Party video would actually do good. I mean, I guess all that work for nothing. Next one, I said, which Who Is video is the best? Now, Who Is, for those who don't remember, is the video series where I look over a prominent political figure. And the 4 videos of it that I did this year are Super Barrio Gomez, Jeanette Rankin, Emiliano Zapata, and William Jennings Bryan. And I really shouldn't have been that surprised. I'm not really that surprised that William Jennings Bryan ended up winning out. He was probably like a like one that I'm pretty sure he was a one that everybody wanted me to do at one point. I don't think I got a specific request to do William Jennings Bryan, but he was one that I think a lot of people wanted me to do at one point. Because he is kind of like a prominent figure in a lot of... He is a prominent figure. And sadly, Super Mario Gomez got none. I thought that he'd at the very least get one or two, just because of like, he's just like this weird figure. Because I usually would think like one of the obscure figures would win, but I guess not. Oh well. Okay, so next one is which thought song is the best? Revolutionary Blackout Network, Bad and Banana, John Oliver, Vosh, Dreg, Xander Hall, Hassan, Jackson Hinkle, or David Pakman. Now this one I actually did think, like, going in, I thought someone like Vosh would win, or Jackson Hinkle. Like, I thought one of those two would win. But the one who ended up winning out was John Oliver. I don't really understand that specific one. Because, like, he wasn't the one that I did the most in-depth research on. He wasn't the one that I had the most feelings on. I don't get why he in specific. Like, and I thought even, like, in the sense of, like, oh, more people would understand the thing. I think the only exception might be because I had, like, one PaleoCon in my audience. So maybe it's just because he's like, I don't know who any of these other people are, and I know who John Oliver is because he's on TV, so I don't know. I guess I technically should be doing more, like, quote-unquote relevant figures. Though I guess that might be disappointing for the people who... That might be disappointing depending on who the next Thoughts On is, because I think I know who it will be on, and it's not going to be someone like Oliver. Oh yeah, who was the least popular? It was actually a tie between Hinkle, Hall, Dreg, Vosh, Empanada, and Blackout Network. Like, nobody liked any of those guys, apparently. Okay, so the next one is, which My Problem With was the best? Of course, the options were Brand New Congress, Working Families Party, Green Party, DSA, and Morena. Now, the one that did the best was Green Party. I guess it's just because the Green Party is a bit more prevalent in the third party scene. Maybe people are like, see, he's doing the third party stuff, see? And the one that did the least one was DSA. I honestly don't think that's that surprising because I spent most of the time actually, like, praising DSA, to which I have to say, like, to all of you guys who hate it, it's like, you guys voted on it. You guys wanted me to do it. You guys can't blame anybody but yourselves. You guys wanted it, and I told you that it wasn't a good idea, and you said, we want it anyways, and now you hate it. Now the next one, which foreign election breakdown video was the best? Okay, so the options were Philippines, South Korea, France, Colombia, Italy, Israel, and Brazil. Now to be fair, I did 100% expect Brazil to win, and sure enough, they did. Now, I expected at the very least all of them would be on the board, but apparently the one that, or at the very least the one that I thought would lose would be the Philippines, but surprisingly, South Korea lost. It didn't get a single vote. I don't know why. I honestly don't understand why. I thought the South Korean one was pretty good. I thought of all the ones that the Philippines or Italy might lose because, honestly, I didn't really, like, mind the Italy. Like, the Italy one, I don't know. I honestly don't know. But again, that's probably the fans asked for it, the fans deliver, I guess. Which list or list type video is the best? So I chose emoji, how many fascists were in Congress, top 9 SCOTUS judges, top 10 even more senators, top 10 political ads, and top 10 progressives for 2024. Now, the one that ended up losing was the emoji video. I guess it's kind of expected. I mean, the rest of these ones were fine videos. I mean, the emoji video is pretty good, but I mean, it just had steep competition, I guess. Okay, so the one that ended up winning is the Senators video. I honestly didn't expect that. I expected it to be high, but I didn't expect it to be, like, that high. I guess people really do want me to continue the series up to 100. Very tragic that I'm going to be here for a long to do that. Unless maybe at one point I'll just speed it up and just do, like, 20 in one video. The next one, the Thinky episodes. I asked which one is the best. And you see, this is kind of weird because, like, I just made a Thinky episode playlist, and I'm like, I still don't even necessarily know, like, how to classify the thinky episodes. Now, basically, the way I'm classifying it is like basically I try to go over like an in-depth topic that doesn't necessarily have a right or wrong answer. Like ones that are a bit more opinionated, I guess. Ones that have like more whatever, or like going in depth on a thing that doesn't necessarily like get talked about a lot. So the ones I chose for this were: should we read theory? Should the left be more patriotic? Why I am not an anarchist? My problems with political streamers. Not everyone you hate is a Fed, and the copyright episode. Now the thing is, I don't even necessarily know if all of these count as thinky episodes. I guess it's basically just what I'm calling episodes that I can't really put in another category. But the one that ended up winning out is the copyright episode. You know, I guess that makes sense. People would want to hear a bit more in depth about a topic that isn't necessarily talked about a lot, especially one that I'm actually pretty knowledgeable on, so that is kind of interesting. The one that ended up losing was Should We Read Theory, which I guess is a more traditional thinky episode. But don't fret, you'll be seeing more thinky episodes in both the traditional sense and in whatever the copyright episode sense is supposed to be. Okay, so the next one is, which politics and media episode was the best? I, put all the politics and media episodes. Emojis, Judas and the Black Messiah, Tonight We Riot, The American Dream, Star Wars prequels, The Lost Jungle movie, the G.I. Joe Renegades, Mr. Rogers, Top 10 Political Ads, Aliens or CIA, John Q, and The Writer's Strike. And the one that ended up doing the best, shockingly, was Top 10 Political Ads. I guess maybe, I guess people really do want to see me do lists. I honestly thought the lists would kind of be boring, but apparently a lot of people do like me doing lists. Lists are interesting because it's sort of both technically another reason why people might not necessarily should like list videos is because that technically means that I'm not doing certain videos, because those videos, those lists could have been separate videos in and of itself. I could have made all the top 11 best senators list. I could have made all of them into separate videos, who is blank. But I guess people do like the idea of just having all of them together. One thing I didn't include was political quizzes, because I remembered that people didn't necessarily like the political quiz videos. Sadly, you will still be seeing a couple of them. I'll try to do them not as frequently, because I know that's not necessarily as engaging as other video topics, but they'll still be there because it is interesting to see them. I'll only try to do the most interesting ones, I guess, in the future. Now, while going over this, I actually did realize I missed a couple. I did miss Humanist Report for the thoughts on, but again, I guess I don't think I would have changed much, because Humanist Report, it was just generally I like Humanist Report, whatever. The rest are a bit more interesting, but anyways, I guess before we get into the final parts of that questionnaire, I guess I'll go over my personal favorites of the sections each thing. Okay, so first, what would be my favorite thinky episode? Honestly, I would have to say if I'm including that section, I would have to go with the copyright episode. That was one that I did do a lot of I did look a little bit more into it, even though I did know a lot about it already. It was interesting to look into, and I did like it. My favorite Who Is, I would probably have to again agree, William Jennings Bryan, but Zapata, I would also say that I like it, though generally all of them are pretty even, honestly. Even Rankin I do think is interesting, just because she's a figure that is probably not known as much as she probably should be. My favorite politics and media episode, it would probably be a tie between the Star Wars one and maybe the LGBTQ representation one. Star Wars because I like Star Wars, and the LGBTQ representation one because, it is interesting. The idea was a bit more bigger, though I guess to a degree it didn't necessarily get as big as I wanted it to be. My problems with, I'm starting to think back at the Green Party one, and I'm yeah, I can kind of see why people would like it. It might be close, but I might have to go with my Working Families Party one, because that's or maybe even the brand new Congress one, because those two are ones that I do, like, when I thought of the idea of the series, those two were the one I specifically wanted to talk about. Because I really did not like them, and I felt that I should make my grievances about them known. And I figured that if I had a problem with them, I would have problems with other groups. My favorite foreign election video, it's Brazil. It's probably Brazil. Colombia might be a close second. It's just because these elections are very fascinating, and I had a lot of research and fun looking into them. My favorite thoughts on, I'd probably have to give it to Vosh. Because, like Vosh, very interesting creator, and it was a pretty long episode, because I did have to go through a lot of, like, big dramas and whatever, but I did think it was rather interesting, and I had fun making it. I have fun making a lot of the videos, but it's like, that one I think is interesting. My favorite party history video of the year, I'd probably have to go with the Communist Party video, aside from, like, even though the rest of you are, like, saying, like, the party switch video, apparently, but I would generally have to say it's the Communist Party video, because that literally took me almost 2 years to make, I think. I, like, finished writing it, like, not a couple years ago, but like, maybe a couple years ago, but, like, I officially begun it, like, a little bit before, like, a while before it actually came out. My favorite podcast in general would probably be the 200th episode. Not only is it really long, but it also goes over all the dramas, and that is pretty interesting to see. It's also just 200th episode. That is pretty good. And my favorite video in general will probably still be the Communist Party video, just because of the lengths and interest in the topic. But anyways, back to the poll, because the last couple of questions of the poll directly tie into things that might be going forward for the channel. Like, first I'll just say this one. It's like, this one is kind of like a circle jerk answer where it's like, would you say my content has changed for the better or for the worse? Everybody said better. What a shock. But this one is interesting. It's like, I asked this question, would you be okay with me doing something that might be not as true as form as the past 4 years have been? Examples, the Ultimate Showdown video, the X rating video, the podcast looking over my old content, and, majority of people said, yeah, that's fine, and some of you said no. I don't know how many of you said no, but, like, some of you did say no, but it's like, that is something interesting, like, not necessarily branching out 100%, but, like, at the very least stepping into grounds not as familiar to the audience. Now, the next two questions were basically open form questions, and the questions in question were, first one is, any other things you want to say about my channel's performance this year? Praise, criticism, don't be shy. Okay, so the first person, like, I'll just say this, 3 people essentially just made it blank, non-applicable, blank, period. One person essentially also said nothing and said, like, I honestly don't have much to say about it. Next one, the CPUSA video was a great improvement. Okay. You were far more succinct and made easily digestible content for a dummy like me. Okay. And the last one is an actual criticism, I guess. I feel like your videos would flow better with background music. To which I say, I made a video with background music. It turned out crap. I've definitely dabbled with it, but that is something that is definitely going to probably be a pass for me. I can never get it 100% to the point where it's good. I have been toying with the idea, but I don't necessarily think it's going to be in the way that you want. And don't even think, oh, but if you're working on it, then it might lead to the thing I want, because the fact of the matter is, there really is not that many royalty-free songs that I plan on using. And the thing is, like, I know you technically don't have to use royalty-free songs, but, that's copyright issues. And, even the royalty-free songs you can get, eventually you might just find out that they're actually not royalty-free anymore. Like, honestly, it just seems like too much hassle, honestly. Now, the next question I asked is, what are some things that you suggest that I do for next year? Knowing full well that I probably won't be fulfilling any of them, because if you requested something that is a quote-unquote main topic video, like a politics and media, or like one that is very highly edited, you're not getting it that next year, because I literally have already scheduled and written every single video that I'm going to be making next year. Well, with the exception of 1 or 2. One is still finishing up, I think. one is sort of technically finished, but also not necessarily. And then there's another, so I guess 3. Like the third one is like flat out and just not even written. But that's because it's a politics and media and I haven't finished the show in question. And thankfully I scheduled the one that I haven't even started on for the end of the year. The problem is, one is scheduled near the beginning of the year, but thankfully it's not beginning, so I do have time. First one, I'd like to see a thoughts on. Second thought, maybe at some point. You know, it's really interesting that none of you people have even considered maybe paying me to do it, even though that's literally an option on my Patreon. Politics in Media, The Addams Family. Yes, there's some political material worth discussing. Now, I really don't know what you're talking about. The only thing I kind of got was like I just looked up Addams Family politics, and then like one of the first results was like Addams Family Values has like some deep political message, and I haven't even watched that one. So maybe at one point in the future I'll watch it and find out what the heck they're talking about, or maybe it's like some hidden allegory about how the nuclear weapons arms race or whatever, McCarthyism. I don't know. A 3-part history of the pre. Now, I assume they mean a third-party history of the pre, but the thing is, I've technically already made it. The pre's history is sort of like universally connected with Mexico, so technically, the Elecciones Presidenciales en la Historia Mexicana series is technically already the party history video for the pre. The last suggestion, make a review series of current senators and or House legislators, like review their tenure and biographies, and how you feel about them. Like your Who Is series, but for the new Congress. Could even be YouTube short series. Hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you won't be catching me dead making a YouTube short. I refuse to jump on this trend. I don't care if it causes me problems with the algorithm, or if I could be making bank on it. The problem with the YouTube short thing is that eventually it'll either cause my audience to get like a lower attention span, or it's going to attract people with low attention spans to my videos, and as such, they won't even like look at the longer videos that I make. With the type of content that I make, making a YouTube Shorts series makes no sense. Like I don't even dignify it with like a preview of the next video. I refuse to even participate in the YouTube Shorts trend. The only YouTube Shorts that I have made are videos from long ago that YouTube has just decided to classify as shorts now. Also, that idea, while it seems good on paper, it would really just probably detract from me making the videos that I do want to make. Like, think about it. I would have to, like, you're saying to make a Who Is video and, like, make a small series of it with, you know, whatever. But it's like, the whole point of a Who Is video is to give, like, a long history, give a decent history of this figure. And not only are you asking me to condense it, but condense it to the point where it's like a short, essentially. Now, if you think you could do that, by all means, go do it. You can do it if you want, or you can suggest it to other people to do. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I just don't honestly think it's for me. Now, since I've been shooting down fans' ideas, what are some things you can expect for the next year of this channel? Well, for the most part, relatively the same thing that you've gotten this year. Good, high-quality content. You know, continuing with series that I've already begun. Of course, there'll be a Senate video at one point, a decent amount of politics and media ones, some that you probably would be interested in seeing, some that are a bit like not as true to form as you would expect, but you know, they're still there. That's one of the things I do kind of like about politics and media. No 2 episodes are entirely the same. And again, as I said before, I think it still is going to be the majority of videos I make next year. It's just how things turned out. Maybe next year I will actually be able to flip the schedule and Politics and Me will be back to a side series. But either way, it is interesting still. We got some interesting foreign elections that might be coming up. Finland, Paraguay, Guatemala, Argentina, and Spain. And those will be getting dedicated episodes to it. It could be subject to more elections to get dedicated videos on them. But I don't know. Like, I'm trying to keep like a schedule where it's like somewhat interesting. Where it's like every month we get like one thinky, one thoughts on, one like election, but it's like, again, we don't really have that many elections to do for like the whole time, but like, you know, we'll fill the slots when we fill the slots. I'm trying to be a bit more like focused on the future of videos, because I'm still facing PTSD about the fact that I literally wasted one whole year doing like 15 very prominent videos all at once. So I'm trying to space out videos. There's some things that I do have like thinky things on that would be interesting, and the first one that will be sort of thinky, I guess. I don't know. I still don't know if it counts as thinky or not. Like, I mean, like technically it doesn't matter what. I can say whatever I want counts as thinky or whatever, so I don't know why I'm worrying about it so much. But the thing is, it is actually an interesting topic, and I do actually care a lot about what I will say in that episode, because I think it actually is like really important to say. And another idea that I have will be an interesting title to see at the very least. I'm trying to tease it, but I'm not trying to reveal it. I'll finally do some thoughts on episodes that will probably be interesting to see. The second thought one will probably be one of them, because, like, I mean, some of the ones that I have in there are probably just not going to be made at all. I do, to a degree, want to be more topical with the main topics, but again, like, sometimes I do just plan it and things just sort of happen, so it's like, you have to be a bit weary. One big thing that I'm trying to do, that I really am going to try and commit to, no more drama. Legitimately. Like, especially considering I don't think I'll have to wait that long, because Twitter might be imploding soon. So drama, like internet drama, might be a thing of the past. But like, I will legitimately be like, I refuse to engage in any more of like the drama spheres. Like, I'm out of every single group chat and DM group that I've been in for a while. Like, I'm out of every single one of them. I can finally be free to do whatever I want. If you saw any of the videos that I have planned for next year, you would genuinely be like, I do think this is going to be interesting. Some are requests that will probably finally be answered. Some are just generally interesting video ideas. And one thing that will definitely be somewhat of a theme, considering it is just happenstance, but also because 2023 is probably going to be a boring year otherwise, is that it will be my 5th year anniversary, and I do have plans on doing something special, a thing that is interestingly special, and I mean, again, without giving it away, will probably be a controversial decision. It'll be a thing that definitely you will either like or hate, or maybe you'll grow to like it. But the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter if you're like mad or happy or whatever. When it happens, it's too late. The second you see anything of it, it is literally too late to do anything about it. To make up for the fact that I don't necessarily think I'll be able to do a Communist Party video, I'll be doing something interesting to celebrate the 5 years, and it's gonna like be, again, like overall the content, callbacks to old videos, basically continuing on with that. You know, generally it will. I think you'll like it. You'll like it. I think you will. You know, with all the requests, with the sort of callbacks to like year one, it will be a love letter to the fans. I just hope that it's one that's reciprocated. And even if it's not, again, there is to a degree a thing about creators. Like, at one point, I do have to like do my own thing, and if you don't like it, you don't like it. And if you do like it, congratulations. Some will be through podcasts, some will be through the main series. But the big thing, the thing that legitimately, like, I mean, I'm building it up so much, I want to say what it is, but I can't say what it is, because I want it to be a surprise. This is something that I've legitimately been working on for, like, literally since the middle of this year. I have been working on something, and it's not going to come into full fruition until, like, the end of next year. Like, this time next year, you'll probably know what it fully... You will know what it fully is by that point. But it will be big, and I do have a sneaking suspicion you will like it. The one hint I can give you is that it definitely relates to one of the questions in that poll, but the hows, whys, and the whats, that's staying hush-hush. But don't fret, you won't have to wait too long to figure out what it is. I've been preparing it for this long just to make sure that it doesn't go off with any problems, and I'm still not at the point where I can 100% say it won't have any problems, but I can say that I think it will go off without major issues. Again, I am really excited, and again, that is pretty much all I can say about it without spoiling anything. With that, I guess I'll just wrap up the episode here to make sure that I don't say anything that I'll regret saying publicly. The first 2 videos of next year will be immediate callbacks to previous videos that I've done. I'll give you some time to figure out what the main series one is, but for the podcast, I'll just say it. The first podcast of next year is going to be me finally bookending something that I've already done 2 episodes doing. Who would I have voted for in every single presidential election updated version? Hopefully it will be the last one. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and click that bell to be notified if a future video of mine comes out. And for some more content from me, you can go to my website, follow me on Twitter, join my Discord, or consider supporting me on Patreon. Happy holidays, and I hope to see you in 2023.